now time we welcome in another player who is in the conversation for the greatest to ever wear number 50 at BYU. It is ESPN college football insider and analyst and friend of the program, Trevor Matich. Trevor, great to see your face.
What's up, Trevor?
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation.
Spencer, Jeremy, it's great to see you guys as well. Normally, I just imagine what you look like, and it is such an interesting thing to see you.
It is interesting, my friend, for sure.
Yes, it is.
Hey, we talked to Bart Oates just a few minutes ago, and he was very quick to point out that he thought you had a clearly better collegiate career at BYU than he did at center, and put you at the top of the list. What do you think about him thinking you are the best to wear number 50 at BYU?
I think he's got at least as good, if not better, an argument to wear number 50. I mean, my team was the national championship team, but that's a whole team. Center's one guy. And Bart was one of those guys that lifted the team into position nationally in terms of prominence, that we were on the national radar when we began the national championship season. Also, Bart went on to the NFL, and he went to multiple Pro Bowls, Super Bowl champion. I mean, Bart Oates had an overall career that is one of the greatest in the history of any athlete of BYU in any sport. If you're talking just about college, you know, I think Bart still was a phenomenal football player, and truthfully, he was one of the two guys that I thought most of as I tried to emulate somebody as I became the starter. One was Bart, and one was Scott Nielsen, who was the starter before Bart, who also wore number 50.
There was this run of just awesome centers. And then there's Greg Kite, by the way, who's playing when you're at BYU on the basketball team. He ends up having a long NBA career. What is it with 50? 50 is like arguably one of the greatest numbers in BYU history.
That's right. And the thing is, it should be really retired at this point. Scott Nielsen, when I came in as a freshman, Scott Nielsen was a 220-pound center. And he was the guy that helped elevate the team into the national rankings at 220. Then Bart took over. Then I took over. And because Bart and Scott wore number 50, I switched my number when I became the starter to number 50. And then when I left, the guy that took over for me wore number 52 or 54. I think he stopped wearing 50. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? And then BYU took a little bit of a dip in football, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
You just have to have the guy wear 50. Come on, continue the tradition.
That's simple.
You know, faith without works is dead. And I have faith that the work of wearing number 50 at center helps.
Trevor Matich, former number 50, with us on BYU Sports Nation. Trevor, this is some needed levity amidst really a depressing time for college football fans as we look at the state of college athletics as a whole, kind of starting to crumble around us. And we're wondering if college football is going to happen at all, and are wondering if you have a potential plan or an idea that maybe this season could happen. How does college football happen amidst COVID-19?
You know, right now it's unknown if there will be one at all. My sense is that there will be a really weird patchwork season that will look nothing like we've ever even imagined, much less seen. But I think to have one in the fall especially, I think three things need to happen, or at least one of three things. One is to limit the spread of the virus among players. I think that'd be really hard, but if mask companies can come up with a mask that you can compete in athletically, that also have some degree of protection, then some companies are claiming that they're coming up with this. We'll see. Every mask I've ever worn has been hot and miserable, and I could not play football in it. But if something like that happens and it works, you have a chance. Another thing is that if you can isolate the players enough, like the NBA is doing with their bubble at Disney World and things like that, if you can isolate the players enough that it doesn't get into their ecosystem to start with, then you can have more games. The other is less likely. It's that medical science will come through with a breakthrough sometime in the next few weeks. And I don't think that's going to happen in time to save the season. So I think really what's got to happen is the people that make the choices need to decide what their trigger is for quarantining players or canceling games. Is their trigger a positive test? If it is, then once it starts, you're going to see entire teams have to pull out of the season, or at least pull out of, weeks and weeks of the season. If they think that this virus is not really a threat to the vast majority of young, healthy people, then they might say that if you test positive, okay, most people that test positive in that age group don't even know they have it. And even though I've read plenty of reports that some individuals have serious repercussions, long-term repercussions when they are young and have coronavirus. So it's not a done deal that it's not a threat. But I think a lot of people would think that it's not. And I would think that they would need to allow players and their parents to opt in. And if the players opt in, then they may be able to say, look, this isn't really a threat to them. They've decided to play. They are the ones who are in charge of themselves, and we are respecting that. And that may be a way that they can get around it. I think a lot of people would be upset about that concept, but I keep coming back to this. If I were able to talk to myself in high school, my senior year, or at BYU my senior year, knowing what I know now at my age and my experience and what I've been able to gather so far from this pandemic, and I'm not a doctor, but what I've been able to gather, I would tell my young self to play. To play. That's what I would tell my young self. And so I keep coming back to this. Who should have that ultimate power and decision? Should the player and their parents have that power to make the decision, or should somebody else impose the decision upon them? And that's really the biggest question that each school has to make in terms of determining whether or not there will be a college football season.
It would seem historically, especially with like not paying the players and whatnot and kind of dictating, that the administration has always been in the position of power to dictate that, right, Trevor? So it feels like it would be somewhat shocking to me if the players were able to make that decision themselves. I think that, and we talked to Brett McMurphy yesterday about this. He said, listen, school presidents are not risk takers, right? So I would be surprised. I like the idea of what you're saying. I would just be surprised if the players were able to make that call themselves.
That's a good point, and I think most people agree with you. Matter of fact, I was having a conversation with ESPN college football analyst Rod Gilmore, who is a Stanford lawyer in addition to being a former player and now one of the best analysts in the business. And he said that the waivers that the players would sign don't really have much force of law behind them because of the power differential that you just mentioned. At the same time, I keep coming back to who should make that decision. And I think that the liability that you kind of bring up, college presidents aren't risk takers. I think liability is a big thing too. I mean, I do believe, based on my extensive experience in talking with college football coaches and athletic directors, et cetera, they really do care about their players. They really do take seriously their responsibility of treating those players as if they were their own sons, which is what they promised the recruits' parents in the recruiting process. They're serious about that. At the same time, my personal experience, and I can only speak for me. I can't give anybody any advice. But I was one of those late bloomers in high school. I wasn't on the radar of any recruiters coming into my senior year because growing up, I was one of the smallest, least athletic kids in my school. I never earned a starting position at any school sport until my senior year in high school. And that year I made all city, all Northern California. I was all conference, scholarship interest from 60 schools, right? But had that season been canceled, I would never have played college football. Then I get into BYU, and I came back from my mission in October at 204 pounds and jumped right onto the scout squad as a center. 204 pounds, scout team center in October, fresh off the plane from my mission in Mexico. So from that October to the following September, I had bulked up to a whopping 238 pounds. And I started my junior year at 238 pounds. I never would have been drafted at 238 as an offensive lineman. It just wouldn't have happened. So the next year I bulked way up to 262 and I became a first-round draft choice. But had that next year not happened, I wouldn't have probably been in the NFL. The door would not have been open to me. And so I would have said to myself, look, knowing what we know now, what we think we know now about the dangers of the coronavirus for someone like me, no comorbidities, didn't have diabetes as a 20-year-old, things like that, I would have said, take the risk because of the potential rewards. For other people, like you look at Trevor Lawrence as a hypothetical example. He's the quarterback at Clemson, widely thought of as being a candidate to be the first pick in the draft whenever he comes out, which will probably be at the end of this year. If I were advising him, I would say consider not playing at all. Not just because there is that small chance that it could affect him more severely than most in his age group, but because what if it affects his offensive line? Now he's got to go play. What if it affects his receivers and he's got to hold the ball longer? What happens then? Somebody like that, I would say the risk reward might not be the same as it would have been for me. And when you take it away from just NFL prospects, there are guys that just want to play. And this might be their last opportunity. And again, I keep coming back to safety has to be first. Safety has to be first. But who am I to tell someone what their definition of safety needs to be.
Mm.
And I keep coming back to that as a conundrum that I haven't been able to solve in my own mind yet.
Thought-provoking stuff from ESPN college football insider Trevor Matich, BYU national champion and one of the best to ever wear number 50 in Provo, Utah. Trevor, BYU is dealing with a very, very significant disruption to their schedule between the Big Ten and Pac-12 deciding to go conference only. So long are games with Utah, Arizona State, and Stanford out of the Pac-12, and then Michigan State and Minnesota. So Tom Holmoe is dealing with some chaos for sure. What do you expect the BYU football schedule to look like in Independence if more and more conferences decide to go conference only?
I think they'll have to double up with the other independents. I don't know that there's much other choice than that. I mean, this was a golden opportunity for BYU. The teams with the greatest advantage coming into this season because of the loss of spring ball, maybe diminished opportunity in the summer as well to practice and develop players, were the ones with continuity of coaching, systems, and especially quarterback. And BYU has that with Zach Wilson coming back at the quarterback position. Teams like Clemson with Trevor Lawrence and Dabo Swinney coming back have a huge advantage over teams like LSU, who they beat in the national championship game because their quarterback, Joe Burrow, is off to the NFL, and LSU's got a new offensive coordinator, a new offensive brain trust in there that will change a few things. Well, BYU comes into this season with that kind of advantage. And to get Michigan State in the opener in Provo at altitude was a super opportunity for the Cougars. And then they go out to Minnesota, a rising team in the Big Ten, and then those Pac-12 teams. This was a great opportunity for BYU. They would have had to have played well and won the games, but still, it was teed up for them. So that opportunity now is lost. And then you asked about what the schedule looks like. When I say patchwork season, I think this season is going to be nuts, and it's going to take tremendous creativity to get football on the field. For example, if the Big Ten was the first Power 5 conference to announce that it was going to go conference only. And so my thought was, okay, well, let's say Ohio State and Penn State have they're not scheduled in a given week, and their opponent cancels the game on Thursday. So both Ohio State and Penn State don't have a game on Saturday now. It's Thursday. Well, by having conference only, they could say within the conference, look, one of you guys jump on a bus, drive to the other one, and get a game in. Now, that would wreak havoc with game planning. And they may need to do things like say that only the originally scheduled game, would count towards conference standings. But in order to get football on the field, you may need to do things like that. BYU may need to do things like that with independents or with schools that are just willing to play them in group of 5 conferences out west, or even FCS schools out west that they could take a bus. If they've got both a cancellation on the same time, jump on a bus, go play a game. And if they end up playing 5 games against Big Sky teams, so what, right? They'll need to get something in. That's why I think this season will be a patchwork. It will be crazy, and you may see some teams play one opponent multiple times just to get it on the field.
Trevor, it's great to catch up with you. I feel like we could talk for like 3 more hours about everything within the state of college football, but we will save that for a later day. And at this time, wish you good health, and I hope we're talking at least some version of football as we approach a very, very interesting season.
Thank you. And my number 50 on the football side is, I'd say, Bart, then Scott Nielsen, who's one of my football heroes when I came in as a 17-year-old freshman. And then I'm somewhere after that. That's what I would say.
Oh, man, you and Bart share a lot of similarities. You know that? Thanks for the time, Trevor.